10 years had passed since the human ship, the human unified mission of astronavigation, had vanished from all radar systems. In those 10 years, humanity had expanded its reach, establishing colonies across the solar system and beyond. Mars hosted the largest off-Earth settlement, with over 5 million residents spread across 3 major dome cities. Europa and Titan maintained smaller but strategically crucial research outposts and mining operations. The United Earth Council, once a symbol of human unity, now weathered internal strife as colonial representatives increasingly demanded autonomy from Earth's oversight. Commander Helena Vale stood at the observation deck of Orbital Defense Station 7, her eyes fixed on the distant stars. The early warning system had been registering anomalous readings for the past week. Nothing concrete, just strange fluctuations in background radiation and occasional gravitational distortions near the outer rim of the solar system. "Commander," Lieutenant Reyes called from his console, "we've got something." Vale approached the terminal. The holographic display showed a tear in space, something folding into existence where nothing had been moments ago. "Magnify," she ordered, keeping her voice steady despite the tension building in her chest. The image sharpened, and collective gasps filled the command center. There, materializing from the space-time distortion, was the unmistakable silhouette of the human ship. But something was wrong. The once pristine lines of Earth's most advanced vessel were now altered. Asymmetrical protrusions extended from its hull, pulsing with an eerie blue light. Parts of the ship seemed fused with unknown materials that reflected starlight in ways that defied physics. "Sound General Quarters," Vale ordered, "and get Admiral Mira on the line immediately." Admiral Estella Mira was concluding a contentious meeting with the United Earth Council when her neural implant buzzed with the highest priority alert. She excused herself without explanation, moving swiftly to the secure communication room adjacent to the council chambers. "This is Admiral Mira. What's the situation?" The holographic display materialized Commander Vale's face, tension evident in her expression. "Admiral, the human has returned." Mira felt her knees weaken. For a moment, she wasn't Admiral Estella Mira, commander of Earth's defense fleet, but simply Estella, the woman who had lost her husband, Captain Alastair Roth, 10 years ago when a human ship embarked on its desperate mission. "Status?" she managed to ask. "The ship appears altered, Admiral. Significantly. We've targeted weapons systems on it as a precaution, awaiting your orders." Myra's training kicked in, pushing personal feelings aside. "Maintain distance. Establish a quarantine perimeter. No direct engagement unless they show hostile intent." "Yes, Admiral. There's one more thing." Vale hesitated. "We're receiving a transmission." The communication shifted to audio only. Through layers of static and mechanical distortion, a voice emerged, a voice that sent chills down Myra's spine. "This is Captain Alastair Roth of the Human. We have returned from beyond, and we have changed." The voice carried the timbre of her husband, but it was overlaid with metallic harmonics, as if spoken partly through machinery. Mira clutched the edge of the console, her knuckles white. "Verify identity," she ordered, fighting to keep her voice from breaking. Vale responded, "Signal carries authentic human command codes, Admiral. Biometric voice patterns match Captain Roth's records at 87%. The discrepancy is consistent with the mechanical distortion." Mira closed her eyes briefly. "Keep them in quarantine. I'm coming up." As she ended the transmission, her secure terminal chimed with incoming messages from every military branch. The Council's emergency protocols had been activated. The human's return was no longer merely a military matter. It was now a political powder keg. Within an hour, the orbital shuttle carrying Admiral Mira docked with ODS-7. The command center had transformed into a buzzing hive of activity. Officers monitored the human ship's every movement, while others processed the flood of incoming data. "Has there been any change?" Mira asked Vale as she entered. "No movement, but they've continued broadcasting this message on repeat." Vale activated the display. The message was simple. "We bring warning. We bring hope. We have seen what comes. We have been transformed to face it." The council has convened an emergency session, Vale added. Half of them want to open fire immediately. Myra's gaze remained fixed on the altered ship that had once carried her husband. And the other half want to know what they found out there. Mira nodded slowly. So do I. The emergency session of the United Earth Council took place in the cavernous main chamber of the New Geneva Dome on Earth. Representatives from every Earth nation and solar system colony had gathered, their faces showing varying degrees of fear and curiosity. The round table was a cacophony of shouting voices when Admiral Mira entered. General Hastings, the head of Earth's combined military forces, was on his feet. We cannot risk contamination. Whatever that thing is, it's not our ship anymore. Look at it. He gestured wildly at the projections, showing the humans' transformed hull. That thing transmitted authenticated codes, countered Dr. Unibrighton, the lead xenobiologist from the Mars Science Academy. We have an opportunity to learn about what exists beyond our explored space. The Martian representative, Soren Kazemi, slammed his hand on the table. Easy for Earth to take risks when the ship is sitting in Earth orbit. Move it to neutral space before you decide its fate. Admiral Mira stepped forward, her uniform immaculate, her face betraying none of the emotional turmoil she felt. The ship stays where it is, she stated firmly, and no action will be taken until we've gathered more information. General Hastings scoffed. Admiral, with all due respect, your personal connection to this situation compromises your judgment. Your husband is presumed dead along with the rest of the human crew, Mira finished for him, her voice cold. My judgment is not in question, General. The human mission was always classified at the highest levels. Most people in this room don't even know why it was sent out in the first place. A somber silence fell over the chamber. Perhaps it's time they did, said the elderly representative from the European Union, Professor Henrik Larsson. His eyes met Myra's with understanding. If we're making decisions about the human, everyone should know what we sent it to find. Mira took a deep breath. 10 years ago, our deep space outpost in the Kuiper Belt intercepted a signal, a warning embedded in patterns that took our best cryptographers months to decode. It came from a civilization that claimed to have existed millions of years ago, somewhere in the Andromeda Galaxy. They spoke of something they called the Galaxy Destroyer, an entity that consumed stars, planets, and even light itself. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The warning indicated that this entity moved in cycles, hibernating for millennia before awakening to feed. According to their calculations, it would reach our galaxy within 50 years. Myra's voice remained steady. The human ship was sent to verify this threat, to find evidence of this ancient civilization, and potentially to discover a means of defending ourselves. And you sent them on a suicide mission, accused the Titan colony representative. They volunteered, Mira replied sharply. Every crew member understood the risks. Captain Roth, her voice caught momentarily, understood better than most. The human was equipped with experimental fold space technology. We knew there was a chance they might never return. But they have returned, Dr. Brighton pointed out, and they claim to bring both warning and hope. General Hastings wasn't convinced. Or something else has returned wearing our ship as a skin. The debate raged for hours. Eventually, a compromise was reached. A small team would board the human to assess the situation firsthand. Admiral Mira would lead the mission, accompanied by Dr. Brighton, Security Officer Marcus Chun, and a small squad of elite Marines equipped with the latest weapons technology. As the council session ended, Mira found herself alone with Dr. Brighton in the preparation room, checking their specialized environmental suits. You don't have to go, Brighton said quietly. No one would blame you for recusing yourself. Mira checked the seals on her helmet methodically. If that's my husband up there, or whatever remains of him, I need to know. And if it isn't, Mira locked eyes with the scientist. Then I'll be the first to give the order to destroy the human. As the shuttle approached the altered vessel, the changes became even more apparent. The once smooth hull now had organic-looking ridges and valleys, with clusters of what appeared to be sensory arrays sprouting at irregular intervals. Beneath the outer layer, a network of luminescent veins pulsed with blue-green light. "My God," whispered Dr. Brighton. "It's as if the ship has been grown rather than built." Security Officer Marcus remained stoic, his hand never far from his weapon. "Stay alert. We don't know what we're walking into." The shuttle docked with the human using the original access protocols. Surprisingly, they still worked, though the airlock itself had changed. The metal had been replaced with a material that seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting subtly as they passed through. Inside, the transformation was complete. The corridors they remembered from mission briefings and training had been replaced by tunnels with ribbed walls that emitted a soft, ambient glow. The air was breathable, but carried a metallic tang that their suits' sensors couldn't identify. "Oxygen levels normal," reported Brighton, studying her readings. "But there are trace elements our systems can't categorize." They moved deeper into the ship, following what they believed to be the path to the bridge. The floor beneath them pulsed occasionally, as if the ship itself were alive. "It feels like we're inside a living organism," Brighton continued, unable to contain her scientific curiosity despite the tense situation. "A cyborg version of one," added Marcus, eyeing the mechanical components that were interwoven with the organic-looking structures. They turned a corner and froze. Standing before them was a figure, humanoid in general shape, but profoundly altered. Half of what had once been a human face was now covered in a metallic carapace. One eye remained human, deep brown and sorrowful. The other glowed with an ethereal blue light. Where there should have been a right arm, there was instead a complex array of mechanical tendrils that moved with fluid grace. Admiral Mira stared, her heart pounding. "Alistair," she whispered. The figure inclined its head. "Estella." The voice was the same one from the transmission, recognizable yet changed, layered with harmonics that no human vocal cords could produce. "Captain Roth." Marcus stepped forward, weapon raised cautiously. "We need you to verify your identity." The transformed captain raised his human hand in a placating gesture. "Security Officer Marcus Chun, born in New Beijing, graduated top of your class at the Defense Academy. You have a fondness for pre-collapse classical music and keep a violin in your quarters despite having never learned to play it." Marcus lowered his weapon slightly, confusion evident in his expression. "How could you know that? We've never met. I've been connected to the central database since our return," Roth explained. "But more importantly, I'm still me. We all are." As if on cue, more figures emerged from adjacent corridors. The other members of the human crew, each transformed in unique ways. Some had mechanical limbs. Others displayed more extensive integration with technology, their skin interwoven with circuitry patterns that glowed with the same blue-green light as the ship. "What happened to you?" Mira asked, fighting to maintain her professional demeanor despite the shock. Roth gestured for them to follow. "It's better if we show you." They were led to what had once been the bridge, but was now an open chamber unlike anything in human design. At its center floated a spherical structure composed of interlocking rings of light and matter. "We traveled beyond the fold," Roth began, "to a region where the laws of physics, as we understand them, don't apply. Time moved differently there. What felt like months to us was years for you. We found evidence of the ancient civilization that sent the warning, but we found something else too." He approached the spherical structure, and it responded to his presence, expanding to project images around the chamber. Stars, galaxies, and then something else, a vast darkness that seemed to consume light itself, tendrils reaching out to engulf celestial bodies. "The Galaxy Destroyer," Dr. Brighton breathed. "Yes," confirmed Roth. "We witnessed it consuming an entire star system. But we also found this." He gestured to the ship around them. "The remnants of the civilization that fought against it. They lost their war, but they left behind their technology, a means to resist. This transformation," Mira gestured to his altered form, struggling to reconcile the man she loved with the being before her, "was necessary." Roth finished for her. "The technology couldn't interface with unmodified humans. We had to adapt, to evolve. It was voluntary, Estella. We all chose this. Why come back now?" asked Marcus, still suspicious. Roth's expression darkened. Because it's awakening. The destroyer has stirred from its hibernation cycle earlier than predicted. It's already begun feeding on the outer reaches of our galaxy. We felt it. The technology we've integrated with is sensitive to its presence. How long do we have? Mira asked. Days. Maybe less. The silence that followed was shattered by an urgent communication from Earth. Admiral Mira, came Commander Vale's voice. We're receiving distress signals from multiple outposts in the Kuiper Belt. They're going dark one by one. Myra's blood ran cold. Cause? Unknown, but the last transmission from Research Station Omega described nothingness consuming everything. Then silence. The fear that had been theoretical suddenly became painfully real. Mira looked at Roth, her husband, yet not her husband. You said you bring hope. What can we do against something that destroys entire stars? Roth placed his human hand on the spherical device. This ship is now a weapon, the only weapon that might affect. The destroyer. The Ancient Ones discovered that while it consumes matter and energy, it's vulnerable to specific frequencies of consciousness, particularly consciousness that exists in both organic and synthetic states. Like yours, Brighton realized. Like ours, Roth corrected. But we'll need more than just this one ship. We need your fleet, and we need volunteers willing to undergo partial integration with this technology. Mira understood the implications immediately. You're talking about creating more beings like you. I'm talking about evolution, Estella. Rapid, purposeful evolution, humanity's only chance. Back on Earth, the revelation of the impending threat split the council. Some refused to believe it, calling it a hoax or delusion. Others demanded immediate mass evacuation to the furthest colonies. The military leaders called for all weapons to be deployed, despite Roth's insistence that conventional arms would be useless. Admiral Mira stood in the center of the chaos, her voice cutting through the panic. Enough. We don't have time for debate or denial. She activated Article 7 of the United Earth Defense Charter, a provision that had never been invoked before, granting emergency powers to the highest-ranking military officer in case of imminent existential threat. As of this moment, I am assuming direct command of all military forces in the solar system, she announced. Our priority is defense and counterattack. The human ship has technology that may give us a fighting chance. I'm calling for volunteers from our best ships to undergo the integration process. The response was mixed. Some stepped forward immediately, others recoiled at the thought. But as reports continued to flow in from the outer system, entire outposts going silent, strange gravitational anomalies approaching Neptune's orbit, resistance weakened. Within hours, the first wave of volunteers underwent the procedure aboard the human. They emerged changed, not as extensively as Roth and his original crew, but noticeably altered. Their ships, too, began to transform when they returned to them, the ancient technology spreading like a benevolent infection, reconfiguring systems and weapons. Admiral Mira overlooked the preparation from the humans' new bridge, watching as the fleet assembled. It wasn't just military vessels. Private ships, mining vessels, even some of the rebel factions that had been fighting against Earth's control had answered the call. Humanity, faced with extinction, had temporarily set aside its differences. It won't be enough, Roth said quietly, joining her at the observation point. His mechanical appendages shifted restlessly. Even with these modifications, we can only hope to wound it, drive it back. Mira turned to face him. You've changed more than just physically, haven't you? The Alistair I knew never gave up before a fight even started. A glimmer of his old smile appeared on the human portion of his face. I've seen what it can do, Estella. I've felt the despair of the Ancient Ones in their final moments. We're not them, she replied firmly. And I'm not ready to accept that humanity ends today. The alert came sooner than anyone had anticipated. The destroyer had accelerated, bypassing the outer planets and heading directly toward the inner solar system. Its approach manifested as a spreading void, not merely darkness, but an absence of everything, including space itself. The fleet moved to intercept. From Earth and Mars, Millions watched the live feeds, holding their breath as humanity made its stand. The first ships to engage were the newly modified destroyers. They fired weapons that hadn't existed days before, beams of coherent thought energy that briefly made the nothingness visible, revealing glimpses of a vast, writhing form beyond comprehension. For a moment, it seemed to work. The entity recoiled, its advance slowing. Then it struck back. Tendrils of void lashed out, erasing ships from existence. No explosions, no debris, just instant, total annihilation. A third of the fleet vanished in seconds. The human ship plunged forward, Roth at the helm. It fired its primary weapon, the Rift Cannon, as they had named it, a concentrated burst of combined consciousness channeled through ancient technology. The beam struck the center of the void, and for the first time, the destroyer emitted something like pain, a psychic scream that resounded in the minds of everyone connected to the network. But the victory was short-lived. The destroyer recovered quickly and launched a counterattack that shattered reality itself. Ships twisted and folded as space-time distorted around them. The protective shield around Earth flickered as the energy drain reached critical levels. Aboard the human, Admiral Mira watched in horror as their forces were decimated. Reports streamed in of colonies going dark, of Jupiter's smaller moons being consumed. "We need more power," Roth said, his voice strained as he channeled his consciousness through the ship's systems. "The interface is at maximum, but it's not enough." Mira made her decision in that moment. "Show me how," she said. "Show me how to join you." Roth's human eye widened. "Estella, the process is irreversible. You'll never be fully human again." She looked out at the battle, at humanity's last stand. "If we don't win today, there won't be humans left to return to." He led her to the ship's core, the nexus where the original crew had undergone their transformation. The chamber pulsed with energy, tendrils of blue-green light reaching out as she approached. "It will be painful," Roth warned, "and you'll feel everything. Not just your own consciousness, but fragments of others, echoes of the ancient ones, and the raw terror of our people fighting out there." "I understand," Mira said, removing her uniform jacket. "Do it." The process was beyond anything she could have imagined. As the tendrils enveloped her, penetrating skin and bone, rewiring nerves and synapses, Mira screamed, not just with her voice, but with her entire being. She felt herself expanding, consciousness stretching to encompass the ship, then beyond. She could sense every modified vessel in the fleet, feel the terror and determination of their crews. And then she felt the destroyer. It wasn't mindless, as they had assumed. It was ancient, older than the civilization that had warned them, older perhaps than the galaxy itself. It didn't hate or hunger. It simply was a force of unbeing that consumed existence as its nature. But in touching its essence, Mira also saw its vulnerability. The frequencies of consciousness that Roth had mentioned weren't just weapons. They were keys to the very structure of reality that the destroyer manipulated. With her mind now integrated into the ship's systems, Mira directed the fleet with unprecedented precision. "Focus all rift cannons on these coordinates," she commanded, transmitting the exact point she had perceived, the core of the entity's non-existence. What followed was humanity's most desperate hour. Ships positioned themselves in a precise formation, many sacrificing themselves to maintain the pattern. The human ship charged forward, directly into the maw of nothingness. Mira and Roth joined in consciousness, directing the final assault. At the last possible moment, every ship fired simultaneously. The combined beams converged, creating a resonance pattern that pierced the destroyer's defenses. From within the void came a disturbance, a ripple that spread outward. The human ship, at the center of the attack, channeled the full force of human consciousness. Fear, hope, rage, love, the desperate will to survive, directly into the entity's core. The destroyer convulsed, its form contracting as if in pain. The void began to recede, folding in on itself. The destroyer wasn't being destroyed. It was retreating, pulling away from this plane of existence. As it withdrew, a final psychic echo reached Myra's expanded consciousness. Not words exactly, but an impression. Others sleep. Others wait. This is not the end. It was gone, leaving behind utter devastation, but a solar system still intact. The cost had been catastrophic. Reports from across the system detailed the extent of the destruction. 3 outer planets partially consumed, dozens of moons and colonies erased, hundreds of millions of lives lost. Earth itself was safe, but the shield system was depleted, most satellites destroyed. The remaining fleet, less than 20% of what had launched, limped back toward the inner planets. The human ship, once at the forefront of the attack, now drifted, its systems barely functioning after the tremendous energy expenditure. Inside the Nexus chamber, Mira slowly regained normal consciousness, though normal would never truly apply to her again. Parts of her body had transformed during the integration. Her left arm was now a blend of flesh and technology, and circuitry patterns wove beneath the skin of her neck and face. Her eyes, once dark brown, now glowed with the same blue-green light as Roth's. He helped her stand, supporting her with his mechanical limbs. For a long moment, they simply held each other, two beings who were no longer fully human, but still carried human hearts. "You felt it too, didn't you?" she finally asked. Its message at the end. Roth nodded solemnly. "There are more of them out there, dormant now, but eventually they'll wake." The United Earth Council, or what remained of it, convened in the partially damaged New Geneva Dome 3 days later. The chambers were notably emptier. Many representatives had been off-world during the attack and were presumed lost. Admiral Mira stood before them, her transformation evident to all. Some regarded her with awe, others with poorly disguised revulsion or fear. "The threat has been repelled," she reported, "but not eliminated. And according to the knowledge we've gained from the ancient technology, there are more entities like the Destroyer in our galaxy, currently dormant. So we've only bought time," said one of the counselors. "Time is what we need," Mira responded. "Time to rebuild, to adapt the technology further, to prepare better defenses. And these modifications," General Hastings asked, gesturing to Myra's altered form. "Is this the future you propose for humanity? To become like you?" Mira met his gaze steadily. "I propose survival, General. The form it takes is up to each individual. But yes, I believe that humanity's next step involves integration with this technology, not to replace what we are, but to enhance our ability to defend ourselves." The debate that followed was heated, but less divided than before. The reality of the threat had been proven, and the effectiveness of the modified ships and crews was undeniable. Still, there is understandable resistance to what many saw as the abandonment of humanity's essence. In the end, a compromise was reached. The integration technology would be made available to volunteers, particularly those joining a new fleet being assembled for the purpose of seeking out and neutralizing dormant destroyers before they could awaken. Others would focus on rebuilding Earth's defenses using principles learned from the ancient technology, but without requiring physical integration. 1 month later, a new mission was prepared. The human ship, now repaired and enhanced further, would lead a group of similarly modified vessels beyond the solar system, following the faint traces left by the retreating destroyer. On the eve of departure, Mira stood on the observation deck of what had once been her office on the Lunar Command Station. Earth hung in the void before her, still beautiful despite the scars of battle visible on its night side, where power had yet to be restored to some regions. Roth joined her, his form silhouetted against the starlight. "Are you certain about this?" he asked. "You could stay, help rebuild. They need leaders like you here." Mira shook her head. "My place is out there now. We both know what's coming. Better to meet it head-on than wait for it to find us again." "It will be a one-way journey," he warned. "The power required to hunt these entities. We may never return." She turned to face him, taking his hand, human fingers interlacing with mechanical ones. "I lost you once. I won't lose you again. Whatever we face together." The next morning, the human ship and its escort fleet departed Earth orbit. Millions watched from the ground as the vessels, no longer fully machine, not merely carrying humans but integrated with them, disappeared into a rift in space-time. On Earth, people looked to the stars with new understanding and determination. Humanity had been broken but not defeated. They had faced the void and pushed back against oblivion itself. Whatever came next, further attacks, further evolution, further sacrifices, they would face it with the same resilience that had saved them this time. And somewhere in the depths of space, the human ship and its crew, neither fully human nor machine, but something new and powerful, tracked the ancient predator, preparing for the battles to come. Not just for Earth, but for all existence against those who would unmake it. The war for survival had only just begun.